Welcome back to Sunday Vibes, one and all. We're back in the pub. Yes, the dream team, as you've been calling it. We're not calling ourselves that, but you know, has been said before in the comments below. So, say la vie. We're here to answer your questions. The first one comes from Gaston Bracamontes, and he says, if the sale to Juve goes through, will Chelsea live to regret selling Morata? Hamster, you kicking us off?
Why not? Didn't expect to. Thought you were going to go to Van Straten. Both gone for your drinks. I've been put on the spot. But he's not had a very good tail end to the season. Well documented that after his back injury, struggled to replicate the form he was at the start of the season. Got off to a fiery start, didn't he? But yeah, hasn't looked like the same player since returning from injury, although I think Chelsea should persevere. He's still averaging 0.5 goals per 90.
It's good.
He's not hitting the same sort of heights as he was at Real Madrid the season beforehand when he was the top scoring Spaniard in La Liga. But, I mean, he's still having almost 3 shots from inside the area, almost 4.5 shots per game, I think. He's creating more chances per 90 than he was at Real Madrid, which I think at times his willingness to drop in, to link up with the midfield, to try and bring Eden Hazard into the game has been a little bit underrated. But yes, a few Chelsea fans in the office, the word donkey has been thrown about on more than one occasion.
Not by us.
Towards the tail end of the season. But I think he's finished on, 13 goals and maybe 6 assists in 41 appearances for Chelsea this season. So he's probably been 3 or 4 goals shy of having a very decent first season. I think Lacazette maybe finished on slightly better looking numbers. I'm not sure if he got 6 assists. But I think after throwing Costa on the garbage heap, they should definitely persevere. There's a lot more to come from him. I'd like to see him get a run in the side, injury-free, with a maybe more attack-minded coach. Look how Eden Hazard struggled at various points this season. Look how he's kind of come in and out of games. He's been inconsistent, and he's by far their best player. So, not the greatest year to be Chelsea's record signing Patrick Van Straten, but what are your thoughts on him?
I think he's been good. I think he's been really good. Like he's
not been really good.
He's been involved in 17 goals in 2,000 minutes. Like that's a lot. That's really good output. It's basically exactly the same as his output at Juventus was, which is when Arsenal and Chelsea were interested in him in the first place before he went back to Real Madrid.
That's interesting.
He's had more expected goals this season than he has in any other season of his career. But the problem has been that he overperformed last season and he's underperformed a bit this season.
Yeah.
So by comparison, it seems like a really big swing. By expected goals, he should have scored 14 this year. Okay, I think if he got 14 plus 6 assists in the league, then we would say he's been involved in a goal a game.
Yeah.
That's outrageous. That's really, really good. And we've also seen the way that injury can derail even the best striker season. I mean, look how poor Harry Kane was over the back end of the season because he was struggling coming back from his injury. So I would definitely persevere with him. If they sell him, I think they're silly. On the other hand, they do have a lot of surgery to do to the squad. They've got Batshuayi, who will come back at some point. They've got Tammy Abraham. So it's possible they might say, well, you know what, like we need to bring in an elite wide player. We need to rebuild the midfield.
So obviously Aubameyang has gone off like a rocket at Arsenal, 1 goal behind Morata in the league, despite joining in January. Would you, at this point in time, for the next season, swap Aubameyang for Morata?
As an Arsenal fan?
If I'm an Arsenal, yeah, probably.
You would?
Yeah, I would. Like,
Pretty interesting.
But that's just because of their age and because of Arsenal don't have the financial resources Chelsea have. Chelsea can afford to have an old striker and just turn it around every few years. Arsenal can't afford to do that. But yeah, I would. I mean, in a way, it's a little bit of an unfair comparison that we've seen between Aubameyang and Morata because while Morata was out injured, trying to come back from like a serious back problem, Aubameyang just sat on his arse for the whole of January and essentially got a mid-season break. So when he came into Arsenal, he was so fresh. He was only playing 1 game a week. It was great for him. Morata, a lot more is required of him at Chelsea than Aubameyang at Arsenal, I think.
I think as well. I think that winter break can't be underestimated. Like Morata has never experienced not having a winter break. I think that really shocked him in terms of the back injury happened around Christmas, didn't it? And I think playing so many minutes was a bit of a shock to him. So that's always going to be a struggle. And let's face it, it's not the first striker that Chelsea have bought in either that has struggled in a Chelsea team. Like, that's happened consistently throughout the last 5 to 10 years, that strikers that have joined Chelsea have struggled to perform immediately and then have been let go.
Well, they've tended to play with one number 9, haven't they? With kind of Eden Hazard supplying, 10 to 15 goals per season, barring that kind of blip under Mourinho when they finished 10th. I think you're right. Arsenal had the 3rd best performing attack this season, so Aubameyang was coming into a side that was firing on more cylinders, let's not say all cylinders. But the forward players have not had the best time of it at Chelsea yet.
I know. I mean, Chelsea as a whole towards the back end of the season haven't been at their best either, have they, under Antonio Conte? This is not a flying, attacking Antonio Conte team that you're expecting Morata to get chance after chance after chance in. I think if you put him in a Liverpool side, he'd potentially score more goals than he has scored in a Chelsea side.
Is Marcos Alonso their second top goal scorer?
Yeah, so I believe he is actually right up there, but I think he has got like 6 or 8 goals, which is pretty impressive for a left back. But I think Morata, I would agree with you guys, I think has to be kept hold of because I don't see that many other options in the market right now in terms of strikers in that sort of profile that you could bring in. Obviously Lewandowski has been linked quite heavily to Chelsea over the last 2 or 3 weeks. I think he met with Zahani, didn't he, the agent who has got very close ties with Chelsea and has bought a lot of players there.
That's going to move to Real Madrid if reports are to believe from Bild.
Well, I don't think Real Madrid are ever going to move for Lewandowski. I think if they were going to have moved for Lewandowski, they would have done it 2 or 3 seasons ago when they could have.
It does feel like Lever might move.
I think Lewandowski wants to move club. That's my personal feeling. He wants the increase of wages, but clubs don't want to take a risk on a player that is now 29 years old. Yes, he's a consistent goal scorer in a Bayern Munich side, but 29 years old, I think
he's been injured
30 this
kind
year.
Of 3 seasons, has he? He's put 40 appearances plus up. We were talking about this in Transfer Review this morning. But I think you're right in that there's not many...
29 and 30 this year as well.
There's not many great options out there when you look at the fact that Bayern, according to Bild, are considering a bid for Paulo Dybala for 100 million euros, and that's never going to happen in a million years. One, he's worth more, or 2, Juve just won't let him go. There's kind of a shortage of top striking options that are available.
But they do have Batshuayi.
I agree.
Abraham. I mean,
but Batshuayi, Abraham and Morata, you would say that's some of the best young striking talent in Europe on their depth.
That's not a trident that's going to secure you a league title, which Chelsea have become so familiar with in the last 5 to 10 years.
But what if, say, selling Morata enabled you to make a move for someone like, say, Ousmane Dembele? Or Anthony Martial, who can play on the wing. Or
2 hot takes
the
there from you, Van Straten. Dirty boy.
United would not sell Anthony Martial to Chelsea.
If it enabled them, supposedly they want Willian though, and I think that'd be a great move for Chelsea if they let Willian go and brought in Martial.
That'd be horrible.
Such a Jose Mourinho transfer.
Horrible for United.
That'd be really exciting for Chelsea. I mean, like if selling, this is always like the caveat, right? Which is like if you can get a better player by letting a really good player go, then sure, go ahead and do it. So we wouldn't say sell Morata, but if getting rid of Morata meant you could bring in Ousmane Dembele and give some support to Hazard in the attacking midfield, then I think
it doesn't feel like to me though that Chelsea are the type of club in a similar mould to Liverpool have done over the last few years, and Arsenal are now going to try and target, I imagine under Mislin's hat a little bit more, are going to try and target 20 to 23-year-old, maybe 24-year-old players that fit a nice profile and can be developed. Chelsea go out and sign established names. That's my personal feeling.
You say that, but I feel like only Liverpool have profiled like that in the transfer market. Mislin's had since he's come in and signed quite a few. Arsenal have been linked with Socrates, they've signed Mavropanos, yes. But
Mkhitaryan as well.
Mkhitaryan.
It's true.
So it is getting, we've said this time and time again, but the top talent, and look at Barcelona this season, it is being hoovered up quicker than ever. That Ajax team looks like it's going to be unpicked this season. You have Arta joining from Gremio for 30 million. They're already thinking about offloading, it looks like, a 20-year-old winger. So yes, I think it might be a messy transfer period.
So I hope it is.
So if Morata did leave Chelsea, who would be your ideal replacement to bring in if you're Antonio Conte, or if you were, let's say, Maurizio Sarri?
If Batshuayi were fit, I'd be happy promoting Batshuayi, but
he's not good enough to win your league title.
Why isn't he? How do we know?
Yeah, I'm not sure he is either.
I just don't.
You've no evidence to make that claim.
Well, I've got the evidence of his current career at Chelsea.
Well, it's just that he hasn't been played. Every time he's played, he's scored. And he had great scoring numbers in Liga, and he had great scoring numbers in the Bundesliga. He hasn't been poor.
He's been a good poor in a Chelsea shirt.
No, he's just a different type of striker. And the thing is, Chelsea over the last few years have needed strikers to do much more than just be a kind of tapping artist.
Morata's a much more well-rounded player. I think you lose a much more well-rounded player than to make way for someone who's as equally
and
as
also,
good a
if you look
scorer.
at the strikers in your rival sides across the league, Batshuayi is comfortably probably 5th or 6th best, probably 6th.
I think Batshuayi just needs minutes.
Chelsea's front line would be if Batshuayi was the striker, they would have the 6th worst striker.
Well, they already did this season. Oh, not the worst striker, but they already had the worst attack in the top 6 this season.
I know, he was returning off the back of a full season with Dortmund, and he'd banged, then fair enough.
But even then, you look at United.
Imagine putting that weight
on
your shoulders.
You look at Aguero, Lukaku, Kane, Aubameyang, and Firmino. He's nowhere near that level. For me, Batshuayi, nowhere near that level.
Firmino didn't really have goal-scoring pedigree in the way that Batshuayi does. The only problem is that he's not fit. I mean, the thing is, and people talk about other players, so I'm not convinced to give you any more. So I mean, Timo Werner is often highly rated as a striker, but he doesn't really give you anything that Batshuayi doesn't. He doesn't dribble. He doesn't dribble more.
He'd also cost so much money.
He's not that much faster. He's certainly not the physical.
Timo Werner would cost so much money as well, especially after the Keita transfer.
But this is my point. I mean, I think that if you're going to let Morata go, then you don't necessarily replace him like for like.
But do you go out?
You replace him with goal-scoring wide players.
I think
I would potentially go out. I'd go and pay the money for Mauro Icardi. I'd go and stick 100 million on it.
But Mauro Icardi is just a tapping player in exactly the way that Batshuayi is, really. But he has better creative numbers than you'd expect, but he's not that different.
But if you're losing Morata, you've got to replace Morata if you lose him.
If I'm Maurizio Sarri, well, if you have got this sort of someone who's a bit more predatory, like Batshuayi or an Icardi, then your wide talent better be outrageous. Yes, Eden Hazard can be that man as well, but Pedro is going to need replacing. Is Willian going to stick around if he's another bit part player? If I'm Maurizio Sarri and I arrive at Chelsea, I don't think they have the personnel to make a Sarri system work at all, which is why I thought an Allegri made much more sense. But if I'm Maurizio Sarri, I'm going to Abramovich I need a war chest to make this work.
At the same time, Sarri built the best attack in Serie A this season with Callejon as a regular starter, who's certainly not an elite player. And
he's like the Benzema of Napoli, right?
He's not remotely as talented though, right? He's just a fast bastard. But Mertens as well. I'm not convinced that Mertens is really more talented than some of these other players they have.
It's a good point.
So I think that Sarri.
I think Conte
I agree
got
he'd fit Allegri more than Sarri. But
Conte got a kind of Mertens-esque period of form out of Pedro, didn't he? By kind of bringing
he was really, really good last season.
Especially
by
last
playing
season.
him as an inverted winger. But yeah, I see a lot of kind of bit part players in that Chelsea squad. The average age can't be great. I think they're going to be an interesting one to watch over the summer.
Yeah, so do I. But who do you think Chelsea need to sign, and should they keep hold of Alvaro Morata? Yes. Definitely. Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. The next question was sent in by Carlos A. Osuna, and he says, will England's lack of midfield talent cost them at the World Cup? Pato, what is your thoughts on the England squad as a whole to start with?
I think it's really good. I thought it was good before he picked it. Actually, I think that you should feel quite confident given the squad that Southgate's gone for. I think he's selected players quite intelligently. I like that he's taken Fabian Delph. I think it's really good that he's taken Alexander-Arnold. I'm not sure he necessarily had to take Trippier as well. But yeah, overall, I mean, it's a really good squad, and there are at least 4 top-class players in that squad, really top-class.
Kane, Sterling,
Ali, Walker, and then you've got another few players who are very, very good. So I think you've got a good choice of keepers. Danny Rose is an excellent left-back. You've got some real talent in that team, and Alexander-Arnold's had a fantastic end to the season.
Yeah, I think it's an interesting one. I think some of the omissions are potentially more interesting than the inclusions. So, Jack Wilshere, firstly. Interesting to hear your thoughts on Wilshere, Pato, but Southgate effectively has said this morning, we shoot this on a Thursday, so he just had his press conference. Basically, he said that Wilshere had a good patch in the middle of the season, then tailed off quite badly towards the end of the season.
He's absolutely right about that.
When he came back, he started 9 games in a row, didn't he, Wilshere, and was a sort of driving force in the field, and then got injured again.
And he's
I was still anti.
Southgate this morning has also talked about he's looking to use energy across the team in terms of energy and pace, like Tottenham and Liverpool he's mentioned this morning. So he's basically said the reason he's picked Fabian Delph over Wilshere is he believes Fabian Delph can add more energy to a midfield than Jack Wilshere can.
Yeah, and versatility
with that.
in the current squad is hugely underrated, especially as James Milner retired after being sort of put to one side under Hodgson. I think Fabian Delph should absolutely go, and a guy that's adept at both left back and central midfield in a Pep Guardiola system, he can 100% play in a Gareth Southgate system with consummate ease.
Yeah,
they're going to be hard to beat, this England team.
England, I think they're going to be super defensive.
They've got but that's fine because your attackers are so good that they probably can create something out of nothing, provided Kane's back to full fitness. And you've got good options off the bench as well with Rashford and Vardy.
Yeah.
But like they're going to be horrible to beat. And in previous years, that's not been a thing for England. They've actually gone for midfields that are too creative. They've tried to play Rooney and Ali in midfield together. They've played Gerrard when he was clearly past it. You know, that has cost them. So actually going for a really solid midfield base, I think is a great idea. For me, I would say that.
What are your thoughts?
They've wasted a space on Trippier, I think, when they could have taken a different kind of midfield.
But Trippier's going to start for England.
I think not having a Lallana. I'm not saying you should take Wilshere, but a Lallana or a Wilshere type, or actually a more interesting option would have been Lewis Cook. That kind of progressive midfield player, they could have afforded to give Trippier space to that guy because they've got Alexander-Arnold, they've got Walker, and they've got Dyer.
So another thing that Southgate said this morning is that Trent Alexander-Arnold is there as the third best option in the full-back slot.
Well, he's clearly better than Trippier in every way.
Well, he's obviously, in my opinion, he's going to play Kyle Walker as a central defender.
Yeah.
As a right centre-back in a back three.
Which is weird.
Alongside Stones and Maguire. I think that's almost definitely what Southgate is going to play. So I think it's an interesting one. Jonjo Shelvey has also not gone. He's basically said today that, again, he doesn't really have the character or personality that fits in with the squad behind the scenes, which I think is a really interesting take.
Yeah, fine. Like Jonjo Shelvey, I mean, he looks great on Match of the Day when he's, putting in raking passes from 30, 40 yards. But I also think off the ball, he hasn't got the match intelligence of some of the players who've made the squad. And I like him. He's a progressive passer. He's very comfortable on the ball. He's got good technique. And he might not have been the worst option off the bench, but Henderson's become much maligned, but
Henderson's got back.
Henderson is a more disciplined version of Jonjo Shelvey.
I completely agree.
So for me, the England team we're going to set up with, I'll just go through what I think it's going to be. I think it's going to be Pickford in goal.
Yeah.
Don't think Pope quite there yet, and Butland's had an awful season. I think
Pope has been miles better than both those guys this season, though, right?
I think our central defenders will be Walker, Stones, and Maguire. I think Trippier is going to be at right wing back. I think Ashley Young's going to be at left wing back.
Okay.
Christ alive.
I think it's going to be Dyer and Henderson in a deep lying midfield two, with Dele Alli more advanced, and then Raheem Sterling and Kane up front. And he's going to play fully sitting back and look to use Ashley Young and Kyle Walker as width, and then Dele Alli and Raheem Sterling buzzing about just off Kane.
We did this a couple of months ago on Continental Club, didn't we? And I was sort of struggling to get Ali into my side because you need those two defensive midfielders because we don't have an outstanding box-to-box midfielder in the English setup. But I do think it's crucial you get Ali involved.
What are your thoughts on Loftus-Cheek as well?
I like Loftus-Cheek. I don't know if he's had, this season to justify a place, although I believe his skill set is probably warranted and welcomed in that current crop of England midfielders. His defensive output isn't great, so you wouldn't be looking for him to get back in the same way that a Henderson or a Milner would have, or an Eric Dyer will. But he's good. He's quite good coming in off the wing, which I like. He's played down that left-hand side for Palace. He's good at driving the ball.
He's a really good dribbler.
He creates good chances in the final third. Yeah, he's a good dribbler for a big guy, which I'm a big fan of. But I don't have much to say against this squad. The only possible change I would have made is Adam Lallana for Danny Welbeck. Danny Welbeck brings more physical qualities to the England squad, but we are kind of missing someone with Lallana's ability to unlock a defence that maybe, which is maybe why Ruben Loftus-Cheek was included.
I think about Bertrand.
I also, when I did my squad before it was announced, I had Adam Lallana in it, but a lot of people rightly pointed out that You know, he's played 200 minutes of football this season, Adam Lallana, which
Yeah.
is nowhere near enough.
Like, we don't know the level of fitness, but based on what he can do, I don't know, maybe worth risking it. But
I'd think about.
I think
there are a few.
I'm a little bit shocked that Chris Smalling's not been included and that Phil Jones has. Just as a Manchester United fan, I actually think Chris Smalling is the superior centre-back.
I think it would have been interesting to take a Tarkowski or even to go to Borough and take Ben Gibson over someone over someone like Cahill who's barely played.
Tarkowski's on the reserves, right?
Yeah, Tarkowski is the reserve centre-half.
I mean, if we assume that Cahill isn't going to start, I don't really see the value of him being
He's
there.
definitely not. Well, the value of him being there is apparently behind the scenes. That's what Southgate.
Yeah, I can imagine.
I find that hard to believe.
As my next point, I can imagine that Cahill's been selected over Smalling because of the leadership qualities.
He's got the most caps in the entire team at 50.
But I think but experience of what? Experience of losing with England. Like, I mean, I think
playing in a back three as well. Cahill does have
sure,
experience.
That's true. I think Bertrand would have been good instead of maybe Young, and I think like a wide, fast player would have probably been a better choice over Welbeck.
The one thing that I really like about this England team and the fact that you're going to play a 3 at the back is that the spine of the side all play in a 3 at the back 3-5-2 system.
Or 5 of the side play for Spurs.
You look at I mean, Pickford to start in goal plays it at Everton. Centre halves, Stones, Walker both play it in there. Dyer plays it, and then Dele Alli and Harry Kane all play it. And so do Kieran Trippier on the right wing back. Ashley Young doesn't play at United, but we have towards the back end of this season often played in a 3-5-2.
I think he did under Van Gaal, didn't he?
Yeah, a couple of times. When Van Gaal tried and failed to operate a 3-4-3 at Manchester United, he did often play as a wing back.
You've now got this is definitely the youngest, most exciting and most versatile England squad you've ever had.
Yeah, I think the average age at 2014 was 26, just over 26 years old, and the average age of this squad is just over 24.
That's really, really good. Like that's really exciting. And when you think about some of the players that are going to come into it, I do think that somebody like Lewis Cook will eventually find his way into it. I do feel like there's at least one wide player who's going to come good, whether it's Paddy Roberts, whether it's Ademola Lookman, you know, one of these wide, exciting players is going to turn into a really good player.
If you're going to leave Celtic, might as well be for Leicester.
That's also as part of a deal that sees Mahrez go to City, and apparently City aren't particularly keen to involve, or Leicester aren't particularly keen to involve Paddy Roberts in a deal for Mahrez. But I think also Southgate's talked about some of the young players in Sessegnon, Jadon Sancho, Phil Foden, even Mason Mount as well has been included in there as players that he was very close to including in this squad but didn't quite make the grade because they haven't played enough Premier League football.
Well, we don't know what Southgate's going to be like as a tactician, but as a squad selector, I think this is quite hard.
Progressive, yeah.
And even if you just say,
it's our most progressive squad in ages.
Even if you just pick all Man City, Spurs, and Liverpool players and say just go out there and basically do what you do for your club, I feel like that's not a bad start.
Yeah, I mean, outside of England as well, there's been some fairly large omissions, hasn't there, from teams. What are your thoughts on Mario Götze not making the Germany squad, Pato?
I don't see how it's an issue for Germany. Like in terms of between the lines talent, like creative players, I think they've got Draxler who can play that role. They've obviously got Özil who has to start every game. Then they've got guys who are going to create from wide positions, like Sané. They've got so much stuff that they haven't, that they aren't even going to use. Like I can't remember if Gnabry made the squad, but Gnabry would certainly. Gnabry certainly is somebody who I'd have on my reserve list before I got to Götze. Götze hasn't had a great campaign, and he lacks the physical quality that you really need to make his technical quality count at this point.
Any other big omissions we can think of? I think it's sad that Dani Alves isn't going, man. That's
Fagner has been included for Brazil after Dani Alves got injured, so congratulations to him.
Yeah, I think that's gutted though. Dani Alves is his last.
It's sad for Dani Alves, but I don't think it'll be that much of a problem for Brazil. I think that trying to play Dani Alves as a conventional right back is a fool's errand at this point in time.
Did Ruben Neves make the squad?
For Portugal, I don't know. I haven't looked at the Portugal squad, but
Renato Sanchez didn't he?
No, but
I'm going to Google.
I already really like Portugal's squad. We've discussed this before, haven't we? Rony Lopes, Guedes from Valencia, parent club PSG, and Ciron and Andre Silva. So I think he'd do well to kind of get into that current setup, but
I think that it's quite fortunate actually that some of these. I mean, Renato Sanchez is a bit of a pity because he definitely has talent, and he was really useful at the Euros.
Yeah.
But you know, like if you're Portugal, it's
good.
great because you can ditch someone like Andre Gomes. Though I imagine he's gone, but I would 100% not take.
I'm just
Andre
getting out
Gomes.
the Portugal squad now.
I think Andre Gomes, he needs to leave Barcelona.
But where would he go? No, I don't see any suitors for Andre Gomes.
I mean, not for the price they'd probably want, but he has qualities.
He was linked to Spurs.
His hair being one.
I mean, he's a dreadful footballer.
Keep talking, because I'm trying to find the squad.
He's not a dreadful footballer. I think we should probably wrap this question up.
Yeah, let's just wrap it up. I can't be asked to find whether Jota's in the squad or not.
About.
There we have it. What's your thoughts on the England team, though, and the England squad? Who's missed out, in your opinion, that should have gone? Let us know on Twitter, on the below handles. Last question of the day was sent in by We Are Venom, who says, is Ousmane Dembele the worst big money signing, easy for you to say, of the season? If not, who is?
Wow.
Where to start with this question, mate?
Jesus Christ.
Covered it across a couple of shows, haven't we? But why not talk about it again? Because it is a meaty topic. I mean, he's come good at the end of the season. Obviously had a little bust up with Valverde, just giving you guys a bit of context here earlier on, when he wasn't starting so much following his return from that big injury that kept him out for the majority of the year. Was thought to kind of be Neymar's natural heir, wasn't he? Especially given his dribble numbers, still completing over 4 dribbles per game in La Liga, and very sort of adept at that kind of 4-3-3 system. But Valverde's been playing 4-4-2. It's made it a little bit harder for him to get into the side. It's been a little bit more defence orientated. We've seen Iniesta playing left wing at times. We've seen Rakitic playing right wing.
Do you think Valverde will stay past the summer? Whenever I log into my Twitter, I follow quite a few Barcelona fans, and they are constantly hammering.
But it was the same with Luis Enrique, right? Even after he won the treble, like they nearly went unbeaten. It's all about the way Barcelona play, and the sort of. It is very insular, isn't it? As in, they love Pep, but even at the end of Pep's tenure.
If they'd lost the first game of the season, Barcelona, and then gone through the rest of the league campaign unbeaten, then I don't think Valverde would be getting the same shit he's getting now. And we said Valverde was kind of getting a little bit lucky earlier on the season, and all the same Barcelona fans were just calling us out on it. So
but I also feel like
I don't really take them seriously.
Now that they've had Pep, nobody lives up to the hype of. You're not playing the Barcelona way. Every single coach that's come in, you're not playing the Barcelona way. Will there ever be? I don't think there's ever going to be another coach that plays the Barcelona way if you're going to constantly compare him to one of the greatest teams ever in the history of the game.
Well, not just Pep even. After Pep, Tito came in, and in his one season before he had to quit, he got 100 points.
Yeah.
That's outrageous, really.
Yeah.
And nobody. Yeah, I agree that to a certain extent, no one can live up to that idea.
And I think. They've been followed up by a few pragmatists, one of my favourite words in football, but Tata Martino wasn't the greatest appointment, although, got to a couple of finals, or took Barcelona to within touching distance of winning the league. Luis Enrique, I think I see kind of shades of Luis Enrique in Valverde, although he's definitely, Valverde is definitely lays out a more solid side with a better defence orientated kind of foundation. But I think Ousmane, just to bring it back to the issue, I don't think Ousmane Dembele is going anywhere. I think the press are kind of putting 2 and 2 together. If he was to leave and they were to bring in someone like Griezmann as a result, then okay, that makes more sense. But equally, Griezmann, he's got 6 years on. Dembele's got 6 years on Griezmann. So if you're going to let someone go in that squad, is it one of your most prodigious talents? I'm unsure if that makes sense. I really don't know.
I can't think of any players that have been.
It depends how they're going to set out next season.
And why would Dembele be a bad signing? Because he hasn't contributed this season.
Yeah.
Well, if we're judging it on that, then Coutinho is a bad signing because Coutinho couldn't
Exactly,
contribute to a Champions
10
League
games,
campaign, and in the league has basically made no difference at all. They'd have won the same
Couldn't
games
agree
they
more.
won. But of course nobody's saying that's a bad signing. So
I
don't really understand it.
I think Ousmane's a great signing, but he's just not performed in his first season, and that is largely, let's not forget, largely down to the fact he had a horrendous injury when he first joined, has gone through a significant recovery period, which is hard enough for any player, let alone a 19-year-old who's just joined a new club, moved to a whole new country with a whole new culture. He's had to go through multiple operations to fix what was not a career ender, but flies, but a serious injury. So give him a bit of time. Like, let's just all lay off him a little bit. And playing in a system that doesn't suit him.
The same would go for Man City. You know, you could say, oh well, is Mendy a bad signing then because he was injured all season, or is Bernardo Silva a bad signing because he hasn't played that much? Well, when he's played, he's been involved in goals and assists, exactly the same as Ousmane Dembele has, pretty much the same rate as Ousmane Dembele. So nobody's saying that's a bad transfer except for me. Like, so I don't know.
Where would he go?
So strange.
And who would buy him? Because Barcelona would definitely be looking to recoup that money to then spend it on Antoine Griezmann.
I don't know, Chelsea.
Yeah, exactly. He's kind of just like a lazy journalism, right? He'd be like, oh, PSG. I don't know, maybe Arsenal.
Is there any other players then that we can think of that have been a waste of money this season that, in your opinion, haven't turned up?
It normally has to be
just buying smarter.
Yeah, it normally has to be somebody who's like a short-term option that then doesn't work out. That's really the way that you waste money, right?
So Alexis Sanchez could potentially be amongst that now.
But you haven't spent any money on it, and also you got rid of another old player in exchange. Now, I think you're paying him far too much, but it's not a fee that was the issue, it's the wages. But yeah, he'd definitely be up there for me.
Bakayoko maybe at Chelsea, but again, a young
23.
young player.
Yeah.
Zappacosta they paid quite a bit for.
That was weird.
He's never going to be. But he can only play wing back. He can't play full back really, and so that gives you an issue if your next coach wants to play full back.
Palmieri for good money, and he could feasibly be one of the best wing backs in the league, I'd imagine. But yeah, let's just wrap it with Dembele because
probably Zuma on loan.
He's not going anywhere, man.
Nah, he's staying for me. Pato, staying or going?
I can't imagine that Barcelona are that stupid.
Unless they swapped him for Martial.
They're stupid, but they're not that stupid.
Not happening. So there we go. He's going nowhere. So that's the end of Sunday Vibes this week. If you want to get your question featured next week, let us know on Twitter by tweeting. It's usually Patrick Van Straten who sends the tweet, so reply to him. But what else is happening on the Football Daily Network this week, gentlemen?
Literally no idea.
Stat Wars of Champions, we have Bobby Seagull against Michael McCubbin in the penultimate Stat Wars of Champions Season 2 episode. What else do we have? Continental Club would have gone out on Friday.
I'm not sure what that was
yet. We have some big World Cup news coming your way, so keep your eyes and ears peeled. Yeah, that'll do.
Bye.
See ya.